Good morning.
Good morning and welcome.
Hope you don't mind me being early. I figure if I leave the thing open, I won't, I'll be less likely to miss the start.
No worries. You're early and a few others are early as well. That's fine. Still have about 14 minutes to grab you some coffee or what have you. We'll start up at about 2 minutes after.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
And
sir.
Mike, you came in early to get a good seat, right?
That's right.
There you go. If anyone else wants to test out their microphones, feel free. All your microphones have been enabled. So if you want to say hi, feel free.
Again, welcome. We will start about 2 minutes after the hour. So you still have time to get coffee or stretch out and breathe. But again, we'll start with the lecture in about 2 minutes after the hour. Again, welcome. Welcome for those of you that have just joined. We will start with the lecture 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So again, you still have time to stretch, breathe, exhale, get coffee, tea. Again, we'll start 2 minutes after the top of the hour to allow others to join. Welcome, glad to have you. Good morning and welcome. For those of you that have just joined, we will start at about 2 minutes past the hour. Welcome. We'll start 2 minutes past the hour. So you still have time to grab coffee and tea. Again, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Okay, thank you.
If you can mute your environments. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Again, welcome for those of you that have just joined. We'll start about 2 minutes after the hour. So if you can mute your environments and you still have time to get coffee or something to drink, again, we'll start 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some of you. My name is Odell Gordon. I'd like to welcome you to Sumo Logic's fundamental certification. My background, just a little bit about me. I've been in IT for about 30 years now. I played various roles, database administrator, DevOps, technical trainer. So I've been mostly around data. That's been my background. I enjoy training, so I ended up doing this. My master's is also in education as well. I'm located in the Midwest. Today is opening day for baseball for us here. So we're excited, sunny skies. I know some of you are in some rough weather times if you're further out west, but hopefully we'll get through this. Hopefully this class should be fun and mental. Fundamentals is what I'm going to teach you. So I want to try to make it fun and mental for you as well. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, John Meredith. John, you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning from the East Coast. My name is John Meredith. I am a trainer here as well at Sumo Logic, and based up in Bedford, New Hampshire. So for those of you who want a geography location, there you go. And I've been with Sumo a couple of years now, and like Odell, have a lot of background, a lot of gray hairs with regards to IT and technology. So otherwise, like I said, looking forward to working with you, meeting you. And again, please, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat box, unmute your mic, whatever, but please get your questions out there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, John. John will be assisting and manning the QA as well as the chat along with it. We have a large crowd here, expecting a large crowd. So hopefully we'll get through this with no hiccups. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So what are we going to be covering here? Our objective, our course agenda. I'm going to give you that 500-foot overview of Sumo Logic and how it can be useful to you and how some examples of how you can utilize it. Then we'll get into a demo that I'll give you that'll demonstrate monitoring and troubleshooting. Then we'll get to have some fun where we, you, I, us, we'll be able to get into some hands-on labs. We'll view some collected data. will search and parse and analyze through that data. And we're talking about logs and metrics, okay? Then we'll do some analysis that'll help us identify trends. We'll also do some monitoring of some critical events. Then we will create and modify some dashboards that will also lead us to building some alerts. Then the fun part continues. You'll have 60 minutes to actually get certified in the Sumo Logic fundamentals. Just to remind you, the certification is open book, open instructors, open internet. So we want you to pass this course. So again, we give you an opportunity, and John and I will be here to help you pass that during that 60-minute period. Again, once you take the certification exam and you, of course, you pass that exam, we want to reward you for your hard work. We want to give you a $15 Uber Eats voucher. I will post this link once we get towards the actual fundamentals exam. John may have posted it already, but we'll just post that later, okay, once we get to that exam, okay? And then you'll be able to fill out that. We also, Ziggy is one of our other awards. In case you don't have Uber Eats, we also refer to Ziggy as well. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get in here and get started. And I'm going to turn off some of this, my video, to save some bandwidth, and you guys could focus on the lecture as well as the actual slides. Okay. All right, very good. So how does Sumo Logic help me? Okay, so let's talk about it for a second. All right, let's give you that 500-foot overview that I was speaking of. And what you're seeing at the top of the screen, are you're seeing 4 examples of dashboards that you can create in our tool. Okay, one example or dashboard example you're seeing over to the left is your actual operational example. As I mentioned, I worked in DevOps early in my career, and I often had to log in to the Unix console, log in, find the logs, and issue some grep statements to search the logs to find out what the issue is for. Had I had the continuous intelligence platform, I would need to do all of that. I could have set an alert. For example, in my operational intelligence, I could have found out, are all of my systems up? That's a great indicator of finding out what's going on. What if I had some mean time to identify or to resolve, or other system health concerns? I could have gleaned that information from my operational intelligence dashboard. Another type of dashboard that we could have created is a security intelligence dashboard. Who's logging in? And from where are they logging in? Are they logging in multiple instances across different parts of the world? So again, that type of information I could have gleaned from a security intelligence type dashboard. From our business perspective, hey, we just issued a marketing campaign. Was it successful? What pages of our customers frequently viewing on our website? What are they ordering? Again, further information that we can glean from a business intelligence dashboard. And then finally, globally, how is our company compared to other companies? We're looking at a global perspective, okay? Observing our data worldwide. So those are just 4 examples of dashboards that you could create within our tool, okay? Now, let's talk about your data. Your data is extracting real-time insights that consist of logs and metrics and metadata and traces, okay? Your data can come from apps, microservices, SaaS services, mobile devices, okay? Again, your logs and metrics is the data that we're referring to that we're going to utilize to actually find out what's going on. Now, what do we offer? Our analytics. We feature a multi-tenancy environment where information is very, very secure. We also have advanced analytics in our tool, okay? We also have machine learning in our application. For example, you could easily plot your data on a map box plot. You could use machine learning to identify new security threats, okay? We also support APIs, application programming interfaces. Some companies may want to incorporate Sumo Logic into their products, okay? Security. One of our core values is we are in it with our customer. And what we mean by that is we're in it when it comes to security as a high priority. We're a cloud-based environment. We want to make sure that your data is secure and our environment is secure. So you'll see some of our attestments over here to the right. We're SOC 2 certified, FedRAMP certified, HIPAA certified. These are just some of our attestments that we maintain and make sure that they're up to date. And then finally, your people, your organization, you want to achieve continuous collaboration. You want to use a single source of truth. You want to be able to facilitate and collaborate speedy decision-making across all lines of your business. So all lines of your business can be aware of these types of things, okay? So again, that's that 500-foot overview of our CIP, our Continuous Intelligence Platform. You're gonna see up in the upcoming demo, I'm gonna go and look at some dashboards. You're gonna also get your hands dirty with me, and we're gonna build some dashboards and set some alerts. All right. Speaking of demos, if we just take a look at this slide for a second and we kind of mentally absorb it for a second, we want to be notified of any critical events. So we want to set up some alerts. Once we actually investigate those alerts, we'll be able to look at our metrics and identify what's going on. Once we identify what's going on, then we'll look at our logs and then identify why did it happen. So again, we're going to get notified, find out what's going on, and then find out why it happened. I am now going to digress for a moment and demonstrate an actual monitoring and troubleshooting instance, okay? And I also wanted to let you know about alerts. There's different types of alerts that you can set up within our tool. I am going to use a Slack alert, but again, you have the ability to use webhooks, HipChat, ServiceNow, other types of alerting mechanisms that you'll be able to utilize, okay? All right, let me digress for a moment, and I'm going to go ahead and actually show you a demo. So right now, I'm going to log in like I would to our system, okay? And when I log in here, this is what I would do in the morning. I'd come in and maybe I'd log into our CIP platform. I go to, let's imagine that I was working for a travel company, okay? And I manage and monitor, I'm in DevOps. I manage and monitor all of the systems in our travel company, okay? So I come in here and I go into my production environment, okay? And I look at maybe prod 8. Got several production servers, but I'm responsible for the production 8 server, okay? So I go in here and I look in my operations. Ladies and gentlemen, you will get the opportunity to come into our CIP. I'll explain it to you. Just allow me to go through this demonstration, okay? So I come in here to my operations and I want to look at my dashboard, okay? And I come in here and I see that there's 12 panels on this dashboard, okay? Each one of these panels represents some type of information for me. For example, I can look at my reporting notes. I can look at my health of my latencies. I can look at my elasticity, look at my database. And let's keep in mind, green being good, red being, hey, I need to investigate. So let's think of a stoplight, a traffic light. Yellow would be some type of warning. We don't have any of those, but green is good. Red is, hey, we need to investigate, find out what's going on. All right. Now, I notice here that I have some issues checkout service. Now, last December, we just came out one of the largest travel time since the pandemic. The last thing we need is our customers having trouble checking out, okay? So within our tool, one of the things that you can do within our tool is you can create a drill capability where you drill to another set of dashboards. So for example, here, I'm looking at the checkout service. I see it has a large amount of errors here. So I want to investigate that. I'm just going to click on that particular panel, which takes me to another dashboard that has 6 more panels on it. Okay. Now, I talked about alerts. This is one approach that I went through. I actually looked at the dashboard, came into the CIP, looked at the dashboards. Another approach, ladies and gentlemen, is I could have gone to Slack and went into my prod 8, found out that there was some issues. Okay, there was a gateway response time outlier on production 8. There's a problem. I could have started here, ladies and gentlemen, and clicked on, and notice the terminology, go to operational overview. Okay, that logs me back into CIP and takes me to that same dashboard that I was in before. Okay, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Okay, and what I mean by that analogy is I could have just came into the Sumo Logic, or I could have went to Slack alert. Okay, now in a real world situation, you're probably going to be alerted. Click on that, and bada boom, bada bing. Okay, now again, I'm digressing. I actually drilled on this checkout service, and it took me to a more deeper dashboard, my service detail here. Okay, now I just want to demonstrate one more time. I could have gone into Slack and went into the service detail. Okay, and that would do the exact same thing. So I'm demonstrating, ladies and gentlemen, there's more than one way to achieve the same goal. We could set up alerts. Those alerts could actually lead us to the dashboard to give us more information. Okay. Now, here we are on the service detail. Again, we have found out that there was some issues. Okay. The issues that we found out, we gleaned from our actual system dashboard. We found out that there was some checkout service problems. I clicked on this particular panel, and then it brought me to a new dashboard that had 6 panels on it. Okay, so I can see here that bookings were going great. Bookings had an issue. I started seeing messages very early on, then it was okay, then it went back down. Okay, so what we can find out here and see right away is we have some issues with our bookings. Okay, now one of the things that you can do with our dashboards is our actual legends are interactive with you. So if I want to see all of the failures, I can turn off the successes. Now I'm just looking at failures. Okay, so again, just be aware that you have that capability. This particular dashboard is bookings. This particular dashboard is the last errors in the last 7 days. Okay, I can see that there's some latency issues as well. There's some spikes and peaks in our actual latencies as well. I also noticed in the top here that my memory has an issue. Okay, I can see total memory and CPU. There's some spikes and peaks here as well. Now, this particular panel doesn't have other panels underneath it. But what we'd like to do in this scenario is go ahead and look at the underlining query, the underlining metric. Okay, so this icon in the top right corner will demonstrate or show me the actual metric that's underneath this particular panel. So I'm going to click on that. All right, so now I see, again, I want you to be aware, I opened another actual tab. Okay, I am seeing my CPU and my total memory. I also see a heat map here. When it gets dark, that means there's more messages. Lighter, there's less messages. So right here, you'll see there's no heat map at all. There's no messages. Now I start to build messages and it starts to get dark. What am I actually viewing here? Well, you're viewing the CPU and the total memory, okay? Now, let's look at the actual underlining query that was created. Down here at the bottom, you'll see I'm looking at a metadata tag that's equated to my prod travel checkout. I want to bring that up into focus. So one of the features that you can do within our tool is I can click on any one of these heat map cells and I hold my shift key down and my left mouse. Again, I'm just demonstrating. We'll talk about it later, ladies and gentlemen. Just bear with me, okay? When I click on that particular heat map cell, it actually opens up my query, okay? Now, right now, if I run this, I'm actually viewing my source category equal to prod 8, my production server, the travel directory, the checkout. And I'm searching for keywords, error or exception. I notice in this particular set of log information, I'm looking at 224 results, okay? I'm looking at 1 of 9 pages. I'm looking at my display fields. I have the time and the actual message, okay? Within these messages, error is highlighted because of the keyword, okay? Now, if I wanted to take this a step further and look at all of my messages from the checkout, I'm gonna remove those keywords. Odell, what are you doing here? I'm demonstrating how you can investigate and monitor within your tool, okay? Now I'm gonna look for checkout. I'm just gonna quickly change the time. Don't worry about it. We're gonna talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to run this now with the magnifying glass. What I'm returning now is all messages from my travel checkout, okay? Now, I could go through here and I see I have 1 of 372 pages. I have over 9,000 messages. Okay? I could go through each one of them. But I want to use some of that machine learning that Odell talked about, okay? I talked about machine learning, and one of the features we have is something called log reduce. What that log reduce is going to go through those 9,296, all of those messages, and it's going to say, hey, let's look for some similar values and let's compress those. Okay, so anything that looks the same, let's compress it. So you're watching me, and again, I'll talk about this coming up. I appreciate your patience. You'll notice that my query has now changed. It says, yeah, look at checkout, but we want to issue the log reduce command. So it's going through all of those 9,000 records, and it's saying, hey, what are some of those similar combinations? Okay, that took about 20 seconds. I've still got 9,402, but notice it's now telling me I have a messages tab and a signatures tab. That signatures tab was automatically created because of the log reduce. We'll talk more about this, but again, my method here is I see that this particular message, which is probably informational, was displayed at least 3,000 times. Okay, so maybe that's not worth looking at right now. It's 3,000 times. One of the other features that you can do within our tool is you could actually change the sort by clicking on the column header. I'm looking at 1 of 7 pages, okay? There's 25 per page. In this example, there's actually 15, but you can change that number, and I'll teach you how to do that as well. Anyhow, I want to change the sort order here. So I'm just going to click on the actual count column. So it goes from descending to ascending. My goal is to find something in here that's maybe only happened once that could lead me to find out what the issue is. Okay, so I go to page 2 and I scroll through and I see, okay, some of these were actually created. Okay, I see some info here and I'm running through here. And again, I keep going. And again, my goal here is to find that anomaly. Okay, I'll go to my next page here, scroll down, and I start saying, uh-oh, here's an error. So I'm starting to see some real pertinent information. Looks like some credentials. Looks like there was an issue with some type of resource there. So I'll continue on. Again, I'm looking for that anomaly that's going to tell me what the actual issue was. So as I scroll through here, I see more informational messages here. And finally, I'll probably, if they haven't changed this, should get, let's see here. Usually there's an error that kind of just pops up and says, hey, the production environment was promoted to a dev environment. So I don't really see that. I see a denial here. But again, this information you're gleaning, and I gleaned all that information from the actual log reduce. Okay, so again, the moral of the story here is, getting back to our actual slides, pardon me. Again, we wanted to get alerted, which we talked about that alert. I could have went into Slack at the beginning and found out the critical issue, okay? Once I found out what the issue was, I then went into my metrics. I found out what was going on. We saw that CPU and memory had some latency issues. So I wanted to find out why that happened. And again, I went and looked into the logs to find out why it happened. So that's that monitoring and troubleshooting from a 500-foot overview perspective. Okay. Hopefully that was impressive enough for you. Were you able to follow that? And we're going to build on that. Okay. Now, let's talk about a logical data flow. Okay. Your data into our cloud environment. We have to figure out how to do that, okay? And let's think of a highway, information highway. On one end of the highway, we have Sumo Logic. On the other end of the highway, we have your logs and your metrics. Somehow, we have to get your logs and your metrics into our Sumo environment. We're going to use something called a collector. That will be the vehicle that defines your sources and gets your sources into our environment. A collector, that's the vehicle, that's the object that's going to be defined that gets your logs and metrics into Sumo Logic. Okay, you can define multiple sources, and you'll see this coming up. If you want to learn more about collectors, we offer an administration course, and you can also register for that. Anyhow, once your actual data, your collectors and your sources have been defined, and now that's in our environment, we can actually search through that, analyze those logs, those metrics by using operators and displaying our actual results in charts, okay? We may want to also build visualizations off of those charts that allow us to monitor and set up alerts, as well as display it in a dashboard format. So that demonstration I went through, it actually had dashboards that allowed us to visualize and monitor. It also had alerts, Slack alerts, okay? So again, that's the logical data flow. That's how things happen. That's how things move. That's how we're going to work with this environment. All right, now, I know this slide looks sort of busy and overwhelming at times, but again, I want you to just kind of think about it, look at it from a 500-foot perspective, okay? We want to get your metrics, your logs in our environment, okay, in our Sumo Logic environment. Let's divide this slide in halves, okay? We have a left half and a right half. We have our installed collectors, which is one type of vehicle, and we have hosted collector, which is another type of vehicle, okay? Let's talk about the installed collectors, all right? Now, if your logs and metrics were on your servers somewhere, you can actually install those collectors on each server. That collector is going to encrypt, compress, and send your logs and metrics up into the Sumo Logic environment, past the firewall into the Sumo Logic environment. That's a distributed approach of install collectors, where I install a collector on each one of my servers. Okay, maybe my database server, maybe my Windows server, etc. That's one example. Okay. Another approach is maybe you have a single installation of a install collector. You have one collector on a machine, and then all of the other machines are feeding their logs and metrics to that machine, and then it, of course, encrypts, compresses, and sends your logs and metrics up into Sumo Logic. Okay, so this approach is if you're on a system where you have your logs and metrics and you want to install that. Okay, so again, these are two different approaches of installed collectors. The other approach is if your logs and metrics are on AWS, or maybe they're on a SaaS Salesforce cloud environment. Maybe they're on Microsoft Azure, okay? All we need in those instances is the credentials and the location of where your logs and metrics are. There's no installation. It's a hosted environment, okay? So again, you have install collectors where you're actually going to install something, okay, on your machine, or you have a hosted collector where you're actually giving us the credentials of where your objects are. If you want to learn again about collectors, I mentioned before, the administration course gets more in depth about that. So speaking of collectors, pardon me. What you're seeing on the screen here is different types of metadata tags. And the tags is essentially a name given to a description. And what I mean by that is we could utilize the underscore collector tag to actually define the name of the collector, your default host name. That's a broad approach. It'll work, but that's a broad approach. We want to get to our logs and metrics. Well, maybe you want to use the source underscore source name metadata tag where you're defining the name and path of the log file, okay? You'll see the very bottom one. That one is in bold. That's our recommended, our preferred approach. This one can be freely configured. You'll see us utilize this one most often. So for example, we could utilize the underscore source category equal to labs Apache access. Or maybe we want it to be labs Apache error. Or maybe we want it to be prod Apache, or so forth. So you can freely configure this metadata tag. And this is the one you'll see we use most often. Okay. All right. So what I'd like you to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, I like each of you to think of a 3-digit number from 1 to 999. Whatever number you want. If you want to be 007 this year, that's fine. Think of that 3-digit number, put that number in the chat for us. I want you to watch me as I demonstrate what you'll do. Then I'll put the credentials in the actual screen, okay? I want you to watch me while you're thinking about that 3-digit number, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and log into my environment. Let me log out of this particular environment. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna open up a browser and you're gonna type in service. You're watching me while you're thinking of that 3-digit number, ladies and gentlemen. And you're gonna type in training plus, and you're logging into our training environment. We know the data. We understand what's going in our environment. We're not logging into your production environment. We want you to be able to play in our environment so you can get better comfortable and understand. So that's why we're exposing you to our environment. Again, you're going to type in training, then analyst. You're going to type in your 3-digit number at sumologic.com, and then the password, of course, and I'll display that and I'll put it in the chat. But again, this is the method you're going to go through, and I want you to be able to follow this just as I'm doing. Again, the password is spring, and that's wrong. So let me not do that. It's uppercase S. Fat fingered it. So again, I've logged in. Now I'm going to put the credentials in the actual chat so you can log in. I want you to follow the same methodologies, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Oh, John has done that for me. Okay, awesome, John. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I see you put your number in there. Depic. Yeah, a lot of you've done that. Okay, again, I won't leave. I won't go forward until you've actually logged in. You've put your number in the chat as well. And then once you've logged in, please confirm to John or I that you've logged in. If you're having any issues logging in, please let us know. Again, we want this to be informative. We want you to have fun, to participate.
Do we just create a number, or do
Yes,
we
sir.
have to
Think
use
of
it?
any 3-digit number you
Okay,
want.
got
Yes,
it.
sir. Thank you for all of those that have actually put their number in. Appreciate it. Thank you for logging in. Please allow me to allow others to get in. I'm going to allow you to, kick the tires, look under the hood, drive the car around the block. My analogy is I tell students, when you're learning something new, take the car for a ride. Look under the hood, roll the windows down, click on things. But again, before you do that, let's get everybody in. I don't want you to get overwhelmed just yet. All right, looks like some of you still getting logged in. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Adam. So great question. So these training IDs only work in our environment, and the password changes the first Monday of every month. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out. Thank you, Brian. Hopefully you got in there. Anyone having any problems logging in? Again, we want you all to, Jordan, try another number and make sure you're using service.sumologic.com. Make sure you're using the right credentials, ladies and gentlemen. I'll put that in the chat again for you. Again, the URL, you're using our training environment, okay? You're thinking of a 3-digit number and you're replacing the pound symbols with that 3-digit number. Thanks, Bill, glad you're in. Mark, use another number. Use 647-882. Those are other numbers that no one has used as of yet. Elena, I put the URL in the chat. Hopefully you see that. Thank you, Kay. Thanks, John. Thank you, Raul. Again, anyone not able to log in before we get started? All right. If you have any problems, Jordan, what seems to be your problem there? Oh, you're going to try a different browser? Okay, maybe that could be it too as well. Thank you, Scott. If you have any problems, please put them in the chat. John is going to help me man that. So if you have any issues, thank you, Elena. Glad you're in. All right, now let's get back to here. Let's get back in here together, okay? Sorry about that. Let's close out this one. And I timed out. All right, so I'm logging back in. I timed out, and we'll talk about that coming up. And here we go. And let's look, I think I fat fingered it. I didn't, oh, good, awesome. All right, so first of all, ladies and gentlemen, let me, oh, I'm not in the right instance. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, let me kind of walk you through the lay of the land here, all right? Now, some of you may see this black panel open. Some of you may not see it open, okay? Because this is our training environment. Others use this environment. So if you needed to see the actual navigation panel, you would click on those 3 lines, the 3 stacks of pancakes there, okay? Now you're seeing our navigation panel, okay? You may want to hide it. That's what that arrow is for, okay? Now, in the navigation panel, you'll see 4 icons up top, okay? You'll see your recent folder, okay? Maybe someone recommended something you should see. Maybe you'll see other content that has been open or recently used, okay? Next to that is your favorites. That's where you would click on an asterisk of an object and favorite it. It would be in this folder. To the right of that, you'll see your personal folder. This folder is where you would, whenever you create something, it's going to be automatically stored in your personal folder. When you create and save it, I should say, okay? So when you save something, again, in case you hear this on a test, you're going to look in your personal folder when you save it. And then finally, the library is where the administrator may have, again, recommended something. You can go in there and find out, hey, John recommended that I look at this dashboard or what have you, okay? So again, those are 4 icons up top in your navigation panel, and I'll quickly demonstrate. If I wanted this to be a favorite, is essentially just clicking on the asterisk. Now this apps folder will now be in my favorites folder. It didn't move it, it just made a copy of it, okay? I can clear the actual favorites by deselecting, okay? All right, so again, we're in our navigation panel, we're kicking the tires, we're rolling the window down, okay? Down in the bottom, you'll see our actual main menu. We're gonna come back here shortly, but one of the key things I wanna point out to you right away is if you wanna log out, you'll click on your ID and you'll see the sign out, okay? So if you ever needed to log out, you'll click on the training analyst or your real name. If you're in your production environment, you'll click on that and then you'll sign out, all right? So that's there for you. This is our main menu. You're looking at our navigation panel. Now, over to the right, some of you may have this type of feature where you have a bunch of, you're not doing this, I'm demonstrating. You may have a bunch of tabs open, okay? You can get rid of those tabs by going to one of the tabs and clicking on the 3 dots. That's our more. And you can close all tabs. So that gives you more of that pristine, clean CIP, continuous intelligence platform, okay? So again, if you have that, you can close all of those tabs at one time. Now, so we looked at the navigation panel. Now let's look at the 3 tabs. We have a house, our home tab. We have our actual library tab, and we have our alerts tab. We are going to spend our time on the home tab. Under the home tab, you have 3 links. You have a home link where you look at your recently opened dashboards, your recently run searches, anything that's recommended or pinned here. That's under your home tab, your home link. To the right of your home link is your Learn link. We have a plethora of videos out on YouTube, okay? But what we've done here is we said, hey, what if someone wants to hear a micro lesson about how to use their data in Sumo Logic or data collection strategies? So we have some micro lessons in here for you. Again, you're on the home tab in the Learn link, okay? Below your actual micro lessons, you have hands-on fundamental steps. That's what we're going to follow in this course. If you come back and take the administration course, or if you take it self-service, you're going to follow the hands-on administration lab steps. Okay, mine are checked because I've done this 900 times. Yours may not be checked, or it may be checked. No worries. That's not the concern here. Just be aware, we'll give you starting points. Was there a question? Okay. All right, so again, you have the hands-on labs for fundamentals, hands-on labs for administration. Again, we're kicking the tires. We're not actually doing anything, ladies and gentlemen, yet. We're actually just trying to get comfortable, okay? Now, over to the right, you'll see there's a cheat sheet. Now, I talked about at the beginning that we were gonna use operators. And you're like, Odell, what are operators? Well, if we were to click on the cheat sheet, we can see some of those operators that's going to be utilized in our queries, okay? And if you ever wanted to print this out, here's a PDF version that you print out, hang it up on your wall, give it to someone for Christmas or what have you, okay? You have that capability of printing out the actual log operators cheat sheet. I'm going to close that tab that was issued from clicking on cheat sheet, okay? I'm now back in the CIP. Our documentation is available there for you. Now, there's multiple ways to get to our documentation, all right? You can, of course, click on Docs. You can type in a browser. You can go up and type in a browser, help. You're not doing this, you're just watching. Help.sumologic.com is another way to get to our documentation. Again, there's multiple ways of getting there, so you should never be stuck when it comes to a question on the test, because you have our documentation at your hands, okay? It's a good practice to find out what's new. This is a software company, so something's always new. Keep abreast of it by clicking on the what's new, okay? If you ever need to ask for support, again, you can issue a ticket for support, okay? If you want to get training, more training, okay? Right now, we're taking the fundamentals. We have upcoming courses. You can see now our LMS system has launched. And here, if you wanted to register for any of our upcoming courses, right here, we have another fundamentals course this afternoon. Okay, we're going to have Search Mastery, where we get more into creating queries, more in depth, and using some of those operators. There's a Kubernetes class coming up as well on Thursday. So again, you have the ability to register here as well. And then the community over to the right is where, again, other Sumo users can share information, find out answers to their questions, things of that sort. Okay. All right. Now, one of the other benefits of this here kicking the tires and looking under the hood is you might want to say, hey, Odell, I want to hear the video. Okay. I want to see the PDF or the slides you're using. Okay. Great. Here's how you would do that, ladies and gentlemen. You would click on the certification link under your home tab. Okay. You would click on Get Certified. That takes us to our Skill Jar app. And here we could come right here where it says recorded live trainings. We're taking the fundamentals, but all of our actual courses are out here, but we're taking the fundamentals. You want to hear the video, you click on that. It'll probably make you register. And again, that's my manager speaking there. You'll get the video, the full 2 hours, the same lecture I'm doing, he's doing right now. Okay. It's recorded right there for you. Okay. If you want the slides, here's the fundamental slides. You want the student lab guide? Here it is. Okay. So again, Odell, how did I get there? Great question. You came into your CIP, you clicked on the home tab, clicked on the certification link, clicked on get certified. That launches another tab to our skill jar environment. Then you would come in here and go to recorded live training. Click on fundamentals. If it asks you to register, the registration is really simple. And then you go ahead, listen to the video and get the fundamental slides, etc. Okay. So that was kicking the tires, driving the car around the block, looking under the hood. Let's now get in here and learn. Okay, let's have some fun. Let's learn. Okay, so if you all could make sure you're on the home tab and the learn link. Okay, we're under the hands-on labs for fundamentals. That's where you and I are going to spend the rest of this time. Okay, I am going to go ahead and paste in the actual chat in case you can't get here for some odd reason. I'm just going to paste this link in there. Okay. All right. And one of the features that you could do if you're in a Windows environment and you want to toggle back and forth, you could actually pin these tabs. So if you right click on the tab, you can pin it and you would be able to toggle real quickly between the two. It's not mandatory. I'm just showing you, one technique, ladies and gentlemen. You can always unpin it by right clicking and unpinning it. But again, just because we're going to toggle between that environment, you might want to try that approach. That's in a Windows environment. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and get started. We are on viewing the data. We'll take a break shortly, ladies and gentlemen, so hang in there. We'll skip through this first lap. So we're viewing the data. We've already logged in. We logged into our training environment. What you and I want to do is see if an administrator has created a collector that has our sources. So we want to see what data is available to us. So back in here in our CIP, you make sure you have your navigation panel expanded. You may see the 3 lines. Remember, all you have to do is click on the stack of pancakes there. Okay. Go down to the manage data in your main menu. The darker shaded area, click on manage data. You'll see a set of sublinks. We want to click on collections. Okay. Now, this could be overwhelming at times. You see a lot of stuff going on here, right? So I want us first to kind of get comfortable with what we're viewing. Right now, by default, all of our collectors are expanded. So if you look right where I'm going, it says expanded all. I'm going to click on none. So it makes it a little easier to absorb on the eyes of what's going on. Okay. So we're seeing a bunch of collectors here. Okay. And we have 18 pages of collectors. All right. And I just want to look at a particular collector here and just kind of see what's going on here. All right, so I'm going to expand a labs collector here. Let's expand this. I'm going to expand the one that has 10 in. So first of all, let me just explain what's going on. Here's the actual collector name. Here's the health of it. If it's red, we need to investigate. You can find out how to investigate collectors in our administration course. Okay, but be aware, you get the health of that collector. You get the type of collector. Remember, there's 2 types of collectors. There's hosted and installed. Okay, you get how many sources have been defined under that collector. Then you get if there was any activity, and then the total amount of messages that have been ingested. So I'm just going to look at one of these that has a lot. So I'll look at this here, K8. All right. I didn't like that one. Let's look at a better one. Let's see, there's some. Okay, here's one. Labs Akia right here. So I expanded this Labs Akia here. All right. What I see is different types of collectors sources that have been defined. So maybe I'm getting my Apache Era. I'm bringing in my Apache Access. I'm bringing in all types of error logs and metrics with this one collector. I see it has 8 particular sources defined. There has been some activity and it ingested over 8,000 records. Okay. So again, here is where you can find out if your administrator has already defined your collectors. You, of course, are not going to be able to create a collector because one, you're logged in as an analyst. So we don't allow analysts to actually create collectors. All right. All right. Let's take a look back here. We looked at our collectors. Now, another approach is to actually open up a log search and issue a command. So if you're following along with me in the steps, if you could, I want you to highlight the actual expression under number 4 in your actual steps. All right. So again, we're on lab 1, viewing the data. We've already looked at the collectors. We're going to do another approach where we search. So I want you to highlight under number 4. I'll explain it to you shortly. Once you highlight and copy that, let's go back to the CIP. You can close your collection tab. Just click on the X in the tab. We can always come back there. There's nothing we're losing, okay? Now, let's click on the new plus button. It gives us a set of choices. We want to do a log search. So let's create a new log search. And you'll notice right away that once I click in the actual query area, it gives me a set of starting points. This is very helpful. If I wanted to just click these items, I could do that. But we already have our query in memory. So let's go ahead and paste that. And let's talk about what's going on here, okay? It's saying, hey, I want you to count everything for all source categories. Now this asterisk is a wildcard. So those of you that are familiar with SQL, yes, it has some SQL features like wildcards. You can also use the pipe to continue expression, okay? So we're saying, I want everything from all source categories. I want you to count them. Now this count is going to issue an actual aggregates tab. You'll see this shortly, okay? It's by default, ladies and gentlemen, when you open a new log search, it's going to default to the last 15 minutes. We'll talk about time coming up. Let's go ahead and run this query by clicking on the blue magnifying glass there, blue box with the magnifying glass. All right, so we see, again, the actual status is done. That's always important to be mindful of when a query is running. It took about 3 seconds. I have over 918,000 results, okay? My original messages, I have one of 36,000 pages. There is 25 per page. That's a lot of pages. I have a gear symbol here on my messages tab. This gear symbol will allow me to change my display options. Okay, so if I don't want to see 25, I can change that. This gear symbol will also allow me to export the data here, the fields. So I can export on this message tab by going to the gear. These might be questions that you see on a test coming up. I don't know. Okay, now getting back to this actual query. As I mentioned, the count operator is going to initiate an aggregates tab. So on my aggregates tab, I'm seeing 1 of 11. I'm seeing each source category and the actual messages that are coming from that source category. Okay. If I wanted to actually export this on the aggregates tab, here's the export right here, in case that ever comes up on a test somewhere. Okay. All right, let's take a look. Look there. All right. We're almost done. We're going to take a break shortly. Just let us get through this. All right. So now let's suppose that we're interested in log messages from our Apache access, which is listed as a source category. We can now start creating queries to find out the messages that we're interested in. But that might not be necessary. Maybe someone else in our organization shared a dashboard. Maybe they shared a saved search for Apache access. Or maybe no one did save anything related to Apache. Maybe we want to utilize an installed app. So we're going to go over those two approaches and then we'll take a break. Okay. So let's first go back and go to our CIP. Okay. We're going to look at our library. Odell, what's the library? I don't remember. Okay, no worries. Remember, you have your actual navigation panel and it has 4 tabs. Each one of these tabs has bubble help. If you click on the very rightmost tab, that's your library. We want to find out if an Apache access was shared with us. The actual search, ladies and gentlemen, is case insensitive. Okay, so when I type in Apache, let's type in Apache access. You all can do this with me. Again, you're on your library tab and you're typing Apache access. Okay, you should see a folder there. Okay, now you should be able to expand that folder. Any one of them, if you have more than one, no big deal, just expand it. You should see in there, there's a dashboard. I want you to start recognizing and being cognizant of the colors. The purple represents an actual dashboard. The orange represents an actual search, okay? All right, now, let's click on that Apache dashboard. Now, this is something someone shared with us, okay? Not that there's anything wrong with it, but what if they added filters or if they tweaked it a little bit from its original look, okay? So this could be tailored to a bit, right? Nothing's wrong with it, ladies and gentlemen. Someone shared it with us. We don't know if they filtered it or if they changed it, or we don't know that, okay? What we'd like to do, which is the next step in our actual steps here, is we want to install an app and view the content. So we looked at an app that we looked at an actual dashboard that someone shared with us, but now we're going to install it. So if the dashboard doesn't show the type of information we're looking for, or if our library search didn't find anything useful, Sumo Logic apps deliver out of the box dashboards, saved searches, and field extractions for popular data sources. They're the best way to start exploring your new data sources. So we're going to start there, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start with adding an app catalog. So let's go back to our CIP. Let's go down to our main menu. Let's go ahead and click on our app catalog. Let's search for Apache. Again, case insensitive, ladies and gentlemen. When we search for it, it filters down and we want to click on the Apache app. It tells you it's an app, it has unified logs and metrics. It helps you monitor the availability, okay? The performance, the health, the resource utilization of your Apache web service farm. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now, what we may have looked at earlier may have been altered to a bit, but this is pristine. So we're going to go ahead and install this by clicking on the word install. And let's go ahead and put our initials here. So I'll put underscore my initials. And you, of course, can put your initials. And let's go ahead and I'll put the date. You don't need to put the date. Let me do that. I do it quite often, so I want to make sure I do it correctly. All right. Now, we want to change our actual log source. Okay. We're going to change it from a source category to a custom data filter. Okay. Now, let's make sure we get the correct spelling. So back here in your log steps, you're on number 4 under the install app. So number 4 under the install app, you'll see the actual phrase that we're going to put in there. You could type it or you can just highlight it. Be aware there's a period at the end of the sentence. We don't want the period. So again, you could type web server underscore system equals Apache, or you could just copy it. Okay. Let's go back and let's paste that. So we have the name. It's a custom data filter and the actual custom data filter. Let's go ahead and add to library. Now remember, when you create and save something, where's it going to store it? You guys are yelling out the answers. That's awesome. That's right. Thank you, Charlie. It's going to store it in your personal folder. Yes. So again, if you save that object, you should be able to see it there with your name on it. There's the Apache overview. This one looks much different, not much different, but it looks different than the other one by a little bit. Okay. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. You've completed part 1. Okay, you've signed in the Sumo Logic. You searched for source categories to see what data was available. You searched and viewed a dashboard that was shared by someone in your organization. You installed an app, shared it with others, and you opened one of the dashboards. All right, let's take our 5-minute break so you can breathe, exhale, stop letting me yell in your ear. So I'm going to put up the timer. You guys go ahead and take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and keep it going. Okay. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you got an opportunity to breathe, stretch, get out of the room. All right, so again, you guys did a good job that first part 1. Let's go ahead and build on that knowledge. Let's keep going. So in our labs, in the bottom right-hand corner, under the summary, you'll see the next lab. So if we click on that link, lab number 2 is where we want to go. Search for log data. So again, let's click on lab number 2. All right, so lab 1, we actually learned about search briefly, but we want to create a query now, okay? We want to actually search in our logs, and we want to look for our keywords. We want to look for get in our messages, okay? So we're under the create query. We're going to highlight and copy that expression. So go ahead and highlight and copy that, okay? And let's go back to our CIP. We have so many tabs open, ladies and gentlemen. You remember how to close all our tabs, right? We click on any one of the tabs or hover over any one of the tabs and you click on the 3 dots and you can close all tabs. Again, we didn't lose anything. We can always go back and find that object and open it again, all right? Now, we of course want to go ahead and create a new log search, okay? Now, here's an example of the how the tool can be very useful to you. So I could paste what you guys have, or look, I can just click and start typing labs and then Apache, and it will filter down to where I want to go, right? I could do that as well, just to show you that I could just pick from here, okay? I could have done that, okay? And then added the get, all right? Just to kind of show you how friendly and easy the tool and the search works. As you become more comfortable with it, that might be the approach where you start typing and it helps you quickly type ahead for you, okay? Now, let's kind of understand this message. I'm going to use the metadata tag, the one that I said is preferred, we often use. I'm equating it to a location, the labs Apache access. In those access messages, I want the get messages. So look for all the messages that have get in them. I'm using that keyword, okay? And we want to do this for the last 60 minutes. So here's where we start talking about the time, okay? Now, as I mentioned, when you create a new log search, it's going to automatically have the last 15 minutes as the time, but you have the ability to change that, okay? There are some predefined relative times that you can choose from. If you use the environment before, you'll have a recent tab where you have recent time. If you haven't used the environment, you won't see a recent, ladies and gentlemen, because you haven't recently done anything, okay? And then finally, you have the custom tab if you're looking for a specific date and time, okay? We want to go back to our relative time, and let's do it for 60 minutes. So we're searching our access, Apache access with get messages for the last 60 minutes. So let's go ahead and run that, okay? And again, we see our status is done, the elapsed time, the results, okay? We see in our display field, time and message, we see we have one of 1,242. The numbers may not be exactly the same, ladies and gentlemen, but that's not the point. It's the fact that we ran the query. We see within the messages, you'll see your gets are highlighted. So all these messages have gets in them, okay? All right. Let's continue on here. Now, let's get down to this section. This is the real meat of how to get straight to what you want. This is building a query, all right? We're talking about parsing the message. Parsing makes search results much easier to scan and interpret. So we're gonna parse that message so that the following message, so that we'll get the URL, the status code, the size, and the refer, okay? Let's look at the actual get message so I can kind of explain what happened here. So here's my IP address, here's some timestamp, here's the get message, it's the URL, here's the actual status code, the size, and the referring URL. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I could go through all 31,000 messages and look for an instance that I'm looking for. Let's say it was a referring website, or let's say it was a status code. I could go through and look visually, but I don't want to do that. I want to make it easier for myself and maybe others. So what we're going to utilize is a parse anchor. I want you to watch me first, then do. Okay, so here's my message. I'm looking at message number 1. I want to use this double quote here as a parsing anchor because it's not going to change. So I'm anchoring on that double quote. And I'm using my left mouse and highlighting all the way to the last quote after the referrer. Okay, so you give it a try. Again, you're using a parse anchor. Odell, why is it called a parse anchor? Because we're anchoring on something that's not going to change. What's not going to, that quote is not going to change in front of that get. Okay. Now that you and we have that expression highlighted, let's go ahead and right click on that highlighted message. We get a set of choices. It says parse selected text. Let's use that. Okay. Now with a parse anchor, we need to use that because again, our messages formatted are all in the same order, in the same place. We would use another parse, which you can learn about in our search mastery class tomorrow, if things weren't in the same place. But this is location based. So that's why we're using a parse anchor. Okay. Now, again, you can follow my method first if you like. I'm going to grab this HTTP up to there. I'm going to grab that particular, highlight that as my URL. Okay. And then I see this yellow phrase that says click to extract value. So when I click on that, it replaces what I highlighted with an asterisk. Well, I want to give it a field name, and we're going to call it URL. And add a comma because we're going to do it again. Odell, what are we doing? We're trying to make our search through these log messages easier. So we're using a parse anchor to filter out. All right. The next number there after that asterisk is our status code. So we highlight that status code. Again, we see the yellow phrase. We click to extract. We place in, we're going to call that status code. Again, no spaces, you use underscores. Again, no spaces when you're naming, use underscores. So status underscore code, add a comma. Let's get that next number after the status code. Let's highlight it. There's a yellow phrase there. I click on that phrase. That's going to be my size. I'll add a comma. And then I want to highlight the HTTP sumologic.com. I'm not getting any quotes because I don't want the quotes. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the referring URL. So again, once I highlight that, I click on that yellow phrase and we'll give it a name refer as the referring website. Okay. And let's go ahead and submit. So Roger, again, if you want to do the right clicking, again, first you highlight by clicking on the double quotes. That's your anchor. And you highlight all the way to the double quotes to the referring URL. Okay, once you do that, then you right click and do the parse selected. You also can look at the lab steps as well. It kind of talks you through that as well. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, look what happened. Our code changed. We initially started out saying, hey, from our source category lab access and get messages, let's parse that get message and filter out the URL, the status code, the size, and the refer. Okay, and let's go ahead and run that. And the tool was nice enough to go ahead and in our display field, in our field browser over here to the left, it now not only has time and message, it now has refer, size, status code, and URL. So it filtered out those values. So I don't have to necessarily go through here and look for my 500s or my 403. I can actually filter them out. Okay. All right. Now, let's continue on, ladies and gentlemen. You did a great job there. Let's save this search. And for those of you that may have a problem, John was nice enough to put that in the chat if you had issues there, okay? We're going to save this and call it Apache status codes with our initials because we might want to use this again. So I have two choices. You can click on the actual save as icon, or again, I'm up in your query up top, ladies and gentlemen, not too far, just in the query. Over to the right, you can click on the three dots and choose save as well, okay? Again, let's go ahead and call this Apache status codes. and put your initials. You already know the answer to the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When we save this, it's going to be stored in our personal folder. Very good. You guys are awesome. I like this. I like awesome students. All right, so 4 and let's go 12. All right, now we'll just save. And if I go to my personal folder, remember, I wanted you to start paying attention and being aware of the colors. I know this is a search, okay? I can share this now if I wanted to, okay? How do I share this, Odell? Well, you click on the 3 dots where it says Apache status code, and you go down to share, okay? Now, in the share area, you'll see if I click, it allows me to share to the entire organization, to a set of roles, or to some individuals. We, of course, want to share to our entire organizations. Okay? You can click off the background. You don't need to designate anything else. Again, you're sharing it with the entire organization. Now, the access rights are view, edit, and manage. There's no read and no delete. View, edit, and manage, in case that ever appears on a test, okay? I don't know if it will, but just in case it does. All right, we click share. When items are shared, great question, Deepak. You wanna go to your recent. That's where you're gonna find things that are shared, okay? Awesome, great question. All right, let's look back here and see where we are. All right, pat yourself on the back. You've completed the task part number 2. You created a search query, you parsed the message, and you save the search, okay? Let's go ahead and let's click on our chart this library. Again, chart this library where we are now. Chart this data, pardon me, is where we are now. Chart this data is where we are now, okay? Now let's build out our query using aggregation statements to count the results and to visualize the data by creating the chart, okay? Now, I just want to kind of quickly digress for a moment and show you some aggregate operators. That aggregate operator is going to actually generate an aggregates tab. So these are just some of the aggregates. All I did was click on that link. Again, I'm going to go back. I should have right-clicked and opened it in a new tab, just so you'll be aware. And I'll paste this in the chat for you in case you want to play around with those aggregates or whatever. Be aware of them, okay? I like sharing stuff with people. All right, so back here. Let's go back here. All right, now let's go back to our steps here. We want to count by our status code. So I'm highlighting under aggregate your search resource. I'm highlighting that and copying it. Now, I need to teach you a technique here. I want you to be aware of it. Now, some of you may have tried to add a new line and you hit enter. All that does, if you haven't learned now, all it does is run the query. In order to get a new line, on my Mac, I'm using Shift Return. On your machine, if you're not using a Mac, you're going to use Alt Enter. That adds a new line. Shift Return on your Macs, Alt Enter. Okay. Now let's paste that expression. Odell, why is it using a pipe? To continue the actual query. We don't want a long line. This is easier to read, easier to absorb. We could have made it a long line, but again, we choose not to kind of help you understand. So it's saying, hey, Odell, you're going to count by my status code, okay? And we can run that. And now we see we have our original messages tab that has all of our parsing, but we now, with that count, have an aggregates tab. We can see the count of each status code, okay? All right, very good. Now, let's see here. Let's go ahead. Let's find out when those status codes happened. So we're going to use another operator. It's called the time slice. Okay. Now, what I'd like for you to do in this instance is I want you to just copy under number 2, the last 2 statements. Copy those last 2 statements. I'm going to explain them once we get over there. So copy those last 2 statements. Okay. That's a good one. You're funny. All right. So what I'd like for you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is highlight the last count. Just highlight that and paste. Okay. Now let's talk about something. All right. Let's talk about what we did. What we said was, hey, I want to look at all of my get messages from my access. I want to parse out these fields. Okay. I want my results to be in 1 minute increments, 1 minute time slices. Okay. And I want to count by the time slice and the status code. If you take a moment and you look here, you'll see the time slice has an underscore. It's a placeholder, ladies and gentlemen. It's holding the values of what's in the time slice because that's an operator. Okay. So it's a placeholder. All right. Let's go ahead and run that. So we're seeing our counts by minute. But what I'd like to do for us is click on the time so it makes it a little bit more easier to read because we want to see minute by minute instance. Okay. You don't have to do that. It's just a way of demonstrating, ladies and gentlemen, and reminding that you can change the actual sort by clicking on the column header. There's also a sort operator that we could actually put in our expression as well. So be aware of that. Okay. All right. You guys are awesome. Hopefully you continue on with me. Okay. Now, we want to get that Excel-like view. Okay. Right now, if we look at our data, it's hard to compare, analyze, identify trends. It's a list format. It would be nice if we could transpose this somehow and get columns and rows. Oh, Odell just mentioned what we're going to do. We're going to use the transpose operator. I'm getting some feedback. If someone has a question, go ahead and ask it. Otherwise, if you can put your environments on mute, that would be awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and grab under the transpose results. Let's grab the pipe transpose statement and copy that. That's going to be our last expression, okay? All right, so I'm just going to use that feature that I talked about before, Shift Return or Alt Enter, okay? And we'll paste that. So if you take a look here, we're actually going to transpose our row as a time slice, okay? So time slice is going to be on the row and status code is going to be on the columns. So that's going to give us that Excel-like lookout. So let's go ahead and run that. Marita, do you have a question? All right. Now, if we look, we can see our time slices are on the rows and our actual status codes are on the columns. Here we can do comparisons,
Odell,
analysis. Yes, sir.
Odell, somebody's getting an error. They says underscore time slice field not found. So can you make sure that things are in the right order there? Yours is right, obviously, to help them out. Make sure their time slice statement is above the count statement.
I pasted in the actual query, the chat. Excuse me, I pasted the query in the chat for you. So if you want to grab mine, if yours is not working, but again, there is an order to this.
Thanks.
All right. Hopefully everyone's up to speed. Let us know if you have issues there. Sorry if I missed it. Again, I'm getting feedback and I need to put you guys on mute because I keep getting feedback. So I'm putting you on mute there, Marita, because your feedback is kicking in my ear. Thank you. All right. So hopefully you all got that. You now have columns and rows. We can continue to build on this query. All right, now let's visualize the data. So what issue are you getting? You're getting a problem? Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly.
One other thing, a couple folks are commenting they can't copy from the chat. Is it only them? No, there's a setting in your company that allows or disallows you to copy from chat. And so many of your companies have probably not allowed that to happen. You know, it's a company setting, so it's managed by your company's administrator. If you cannot copy it from chat, again, if you're in the exercise, you'll be able to see this code and you can copy it straight from there. So I'll put that link back in where he's at in the chat box, so you can go into that page and you can copy the code from there. Thanks. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. You're awesome. All right, so yeah, as John mentioned, again, the steps in the labs are here for you, ladies and gentlemen. So you can copy right from the lab guide, hopefully, and then paste your query in. All right, hopefully everyone has gotten to that point. All right. Next, we're on the create chart, okay? You're gonna see that there's many types of charts that are available to us, okay? We want to display our results in a column chart, okay? So back to the CIP. As I mentioned, over to the right, there's different types of display charts. There's the bar. If you hover over each one of these, you'll see there's the line. Again, there's the pie, etc. Okay. We're going to go ahead and use a column chart. Okay. I don't see the display in the instruction shared screen. You see column headings, graphics to copy the field to the clipboard. I'm not sure what he's saying there, John, what Willard is mentioning there.
Yep, I'm looking myself. I understand.
All right, I'll continue on. John will kind of man that chat for me, Willard, so hopefully we'll get you up to speed. All right, anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, we have displayed our results here, okay? Now, be aware that we have the ability to interact with our legend. So if I wanted to see, if I wanted to turn off something, let's say I want to turn off the 500s, if I want to turn off the 403s, I can click on those. That's a manual step. What we'd like for you to be able to do is actually create that as part of your query to remove certain values, okay? So I'm gonna go back to the actual CIP here. And we're gonna go ahead and copy under the create your chart. You're on the second number one where it says add to your query. The where status codes 200 and 304s. You'll see an exclamation mark, that means not. So let's go ahead and copy that. And again, we're putting that under our refer statement. So here's where we have to add another line. So if we all could just put our cursor right where it reads refer, and again, use the feature that I mentioned before, shift return or alt enter, that should add a new line for you. And then paste in that where, okay? So where not equal status code equals 200 or status code equals 304. It doesn't look like I have any, but again, in case over time I did, this is the method I would use, the not equal, okay? And let's run that again. And of course, I don't get any of those, which is awesome, okay? So again, we're demonstrating how you can narrow or filter out values that are not needed. In this case, we're filtering out the 200s and the 304s, okay? Wow, you guys are making excellent progress. You've completed part 3. You aggregated your search results. You transposed your results so you can have that column and row Excel type look and feel. You created a chart, your results, to adjust the chart and the legend. We'll show you how to do that as well. So one of the things we did here was we went up and we added this hard code, but again, there's other features with chart that's available to you. This gear symbol will allow you to change, let's say, the properties. Maybe you want to change the color, okay? So you have that capability. If you want to go back to the numbers, right now we're displaying in an actual column chart. If you want to go back to the number, the values, you click on the table icon. So that allows you to toggle back to the table, okay? All right. Great question, Rahul. And if you give me a minute, I'm going to answer that question because I have a slide that his question is, why are we not able to add the where search at the bottom of the search? And again, there's a method to it. And I want to show you the method, but let me finish this up. I'll get back to you, sir. Thank you. All right. So again, next in our steps, we're going to go on and create and share our dashboard, okay? So everybody should be clicking on lab number 4, creating and sharing of the dashboard. Ladies and gentlemen, we could look at numbers all day and be overwhelmed by numbers. Be aware that visualizations are the most powerful way of getting your message across, okay? They allow key results at a glance, okay, in a graphical display. That's what we want to do. We want to build an actual dashboard of visualization. Now, let me digress for one moment, ladies and gentlemen. If you recall, when I did our demo, one of the things that I did was I went in and I saw the actual dashboard. And I said that there were panels, and we clicked on one panel and it led to another set of dashboards. And then we looked at the underlying dashboard and saw the query. What I'm trying to let you understand or build is your queries create panels, and your panels are added to dashboards. So you're going to see that hopefully when we do this, okay? So we have our results. We're going to go ahead and over to the right. Again, you already have your display. You want to share this, or you want to create a dashboard off of it. So in the right corner there, ladies and gentlemen, over to the right, you're going to click on Add to Dashboard. A new screen pops up. How did it know what to name the panel, Odell? Because we had saved our query. So it's taking that name and using it as the panel name, okay? Now, let's click in the dashboard area. What this is telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, is that I can add this panel to an existing dashboard. If I wanted to, I can add this panel to an existing dashboard. But that's not what we want. We want to create a new dashboard that we're going to call Apache Status Code with our initials. And I'm going to use the date here as well. with our initials here, okay? All right, and I'll go ahead and put the date here. If I get the date correct. All right, so notice when we type something in dashboard, it narrows it down and says, hey, this dashboard doesn't exist, Odell. That's correct. We're creating a new dashboard. All right. So when it says create new dashboard, we're going to click on that name. It takes us to another screen, ladies and gentlemen. What you want to do before you click add, ladies and gentlemen, you want to turn off this feature. Turn off the create a new dashboard. Okay, turn that off. In our training environment, we have test questions that deal with the old. So again, that's why we're turning off. No worries. All right. Now we're going to add. And as you all know, you know where it's going to appear in your personal folder. There it is. There's that green thing there. All right. Now you are in the edit mode of your dashboard right now. You're in the edit mode. Okay. Other things that we could do. Over to the right where it says done editing, you see a filter, you see a share, you see the actual refresh, and then there's the more. If I click on the more, let's say we want to add another panel. Okay. This panel pops up and I can say, hey, this is my status codes. I can give that the title. It's a radio button type approach. I can click on text. Okay. And then I can say this panel, and you don't necessarily have to do this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm giving you all the possible choices that you might want to do or something like that. This panel displays all my status code, whatever, okay? So now I just added a more descriptive panel, so I can click submit. Now that panel is next to my other panel. And here's other features that you can utilize, ladies and gentlemen. I can left mouse click, drag, left mouse click and hold and drag, and now I reordered them. Just left mouse click and drag. I can also resize if I wanted to. Okay, so again, left mouse, resize by going to the crosshairs. That capability is there for you. Okay. Also, let's see, hold on. Let's see, I'm sorry. I got an error adding the dashboard. There's a problem adding the dashboard. Okay, Heather. Heather, let me show you again in case I went too fast. So here you are in your actual query. All right. Oh, okay. You beat me to a third time. It takes no worries. I'm glad you got it. Good job. You're awesome. Okay. All right. Now let's go back over here. We're in editing mode. I was just demonstrating. Deepak, you got the same error. So hopefully you guys, if you're not switching that feature off, so you're clicking add dashboard, you're giving it a new unique name. You can't edit either. Okay, so again, make sure you're adding your dashboard, giving it a new unique name, clicking on that new unique name, and then switching this panel off. That's important, switching that off. Yep, that's good, Roger. Hopefully that works for you. Yeah, I might have went over it too fast. I apologize. All right, no worries. All right, so back here to our dashboards. Let me get where we should be, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now you're in the edit mode still. I wanted to show you one more feature. All right. If I click the three dots, I can change the theme. So right now I'm in a lighter theme. What if I wanted that darker, mysterious theme? I can toggle the theme. Ooh, I heard you guys saying that. Okay, so that's another feature. Okay, let's click on done editing. So now you're out of the edit mode. All of those features I'm talking about, they're not there now. So that's one thing you'll remember is if I'm in edit mode, okay, that's when I'll see the features. All right. Awesome, 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 awesome. Okay, let's go ahead here. Now let's go ahead and did all of that, change all of that. Let's go ahead and share this dashboard, okay? So just like we did before, instead of over to the left, we can do it that way or right up here in your menu. You click on the icon to the right of the funnel, that's your share. It's gonna be the same screen, ladies and gentlemen. It's just another way of accessing it. So when we click in that share with specific user roles, when we click there, we get a list of your entire organization or users and roles. Let's go ahead and choose our entire organization. It allows us to choose other specific roles. We click off of that, okay? And that's what we're gonna leave it as and click share. All right. Hopefully we're doing fine out there. Good job, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going. So, good job. You created the panel with the search results. I was trying to build that in your mind. We created a panel from the search results. We then added that to a new dashboard. We added a text panel. Then we shared the dashboard with someone in the organization. Okay. All right, you guys are doing awesome. Let's keep going. Let's modify our dashboard. All right, so in modified our dashboard, we're going to go back and look at that Apache dashboard that we consumed, the app. Remember we did that in our personal folder? We're going to go look at that one. And specifically, we're going to look at the visitors location panel. So that's one of the boxes on there. We're going to look at that one, okay? So let's go back in our CIP. Okay, again, you're on your personal tab, okay? Remember, we have that Apache folder, and inside of it, it has an Apache dashboard. Let's go ahead and click on that Apache overview dashboard. And we want to go to one of the panels, specifically the visitor location panel. Okay. Now with this visitor location, it's a geo, it's a map. So I can use my mouse to scroll in. I can double click. I can hold my left mouse to drag it around. We can see that there's actually messages from all over the world. What we like to do is, in this example, we want to look at the US. Okay. So let's go back to our CIP and let's grab under number 3, modify your dashboard under number 3. We're going to go ahead and grab that where and copy that. Okay. And in this instance, I got to explain this one here. In the visitor location, ladies and gentlemen, since we want to use that expression in this query, we're going to go to the 3 dots of this panel and we're going to edit. Someone might have been too quick and they opened in search. That's not what we want. We want to edit. So when we edit, it brings the actual query right here. We're not adding another tab and open up. We're able to issue it right here. Now, in this example, we're going to add the where after the lookup because we're utilizing the country name. We can't add it. We cannot add it above because the field doesn't exist. So in order to add a new line, I'm placing my cursor at the end of the lookup. And I'm doing a shift return to add a new line and I'm pasting. Again, we're pasting this where because the field that we're using doesn't exist up higher up. It only exists after the lookup. Now, in order to run this, there's the magnifying glass again. We click on the run. Give it a second, and now you should see only the United States. And if as you zoom in, you'll start to see more values, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the filter in the query allowed us to quickly issue that extra statement. All right. Next, now that we know how to move between the dashboard and the search tab, you're going to adjust any search settings for our dashboard panel. You can do that, okay? Now, let's go ahead on to lab 6. Lab 6. Now, using that same panel, we want to create an alert off of that panel. In order to create an alert, we have to go back to the search, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our panel if you're not there. And one last thing I forgot to do, ladies and gentlemen, one last thing. We ran the query. We now have to update the dashboard in the top right corner, okay? So that updates our dashboard. So that was the last thing that I forgot to do. I apologize, okay? All right, now we want to create an alert off of this panel. We want to create an alert off this panel. This is the instance where we go to the 3 dots and we choose open in a search, okay? That opens up our search tab, okay? We can see the United States zooms in. What we want to do here is click on the save as, either the 3 dots or the icon, because we want to create an alert. This is how you create an alert, ladies and gentlemen, okay? We'll leave the name as it is. Okay, I'm gonna change mine. You don't have to change yours. I'll change mine because I've done it quite several times. Well, the purpose here is going down to the bottom left, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we want to create an alert. So we click on the schedule the search. Right now it reads never, okay? We want to change it to every 15 minutes. When we change it from never, we get a set of choices, okay? We want to change the time range. So let's say for the next 60 minutes, okay? You have the ability to be notified by email or webhook or some other. We're going to leave it as email. And we're going to go ahead and put in someone's name. This is a training environment, so I'm just going to mock a name here. All right. And then what I want you also to be able to grab is some variables. So under number 6H, 6H, you'll see a little box that contains some variables there. I want you to highlight and copy those variables. Okay, go back to the CIP and you'll see it says email subject. Right now it has search name. Let's highlight that and paste. So when we hover over that email subject, we have some variables that's going to garner our search name, fire time, and our results. Okay. And you also want to results to be in CSV as well. Okay. And save. All right. Now, in the next 15 minutes, that would run an email. How do you turn that off, Odell? Great question. So I can go back over in my personal folder, go to the 3 dots of my visitor location, go to the edit, go to the edit schedule, change this from 15 minutes to never, and then update. That's how you turn it off. Okay. All right, now, and in your actual lab guide, you would see the results. Soon you would see the actual visitor location name. You'd also see the Excel spreadsheet of your results as well, okay? I just demonstrated how to turn that off. The last lab, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially for you as a reference. I talked about this before. You could always type in help.sumologic.com. That's going to be one of your first, that's what you'll do even if you want to take a quiz or a test and you want to find out something. That would be one of my first things to do, okay? Let's go back here. You have our release notes. Make sure you check out the release notes, our search documentation, our learn page. Remember, that's available for you. You can always post a question in our Sumo community, okay? And we have a Slack channel as well for customers, and you can always log a support ticket. Okay, let me get back to my slides because I know there's a few things that I wanted to answer for you, ladies and gentlemen. You guys did an awesome job, but let's talk about that query, okay? This is why there's a syntax, okay? You want to grab the metadata first. You can optionally use keywords. The AND operator is implied. Okay, if you want to use any other operator, you have to explicitly. So this query would run even if I didn't have the word "and" there. It's implied in case that ever comes up on a test. All right. Then once you get the data, you want to parse out what you need. Then you're going to filter down, aggregate, and format. That's the syntax of our query. Okay. The benefit of utilizing our syntax by using metadata and keywords is so you can narrow your search results. You're going to parse. Remember, I talked about we use the parse anchor because all of our fields, all our log messages were formatted the same way. Well, what if they weren't formatted the same way? Then there's the parse regex. Okay, there's other parse operators for you. You can filter, aggregate, format. That's the syntax you want to follow. Okay, there's other there's other analytical objects available for you, such as the time slice, predict, outlier. You can learn about those in the search mastery course. I talked about that log reduce. I want to look for patterns and I want to crunch them down. I want to have to look at that thing 469 times because I want to find those needles in the haystack. Maybe I want to compare what happened this Tuesday to last Tuesday, or maybe 24 hours ago to see if there's any type of trends that I need to identify or patterns. That's the log compare. Okay. You have a live tail that, again, you can see messages that they get ingested into Sumo Logic. That's done by usually an actual admin. All right. Talk about dashboards, alerts, labs. You guys are awesome. Did all of that. All right. Remember, just to be mindful, on the Learn tab, Learn link in the Home tab, this is where you find those actual icons that give you more information. Right? Questions? All right, I went about a minute over. I apologize. It's now time for you to take the actual exam. Okay. First, let me let you know that there's 30 questions. It's 60 minutes. John and I will be here for 60 minutes to help you out. 75% to pass. Open resources, that's slides, labs, documentation, instructors. The goal is for you to pass, okay? Now, what I'd like for you to remember here, ladies and gentlemen, let me point this out. Right now, you're logged in as Training Analyst 312, or whoever, whatever number you're on. You don't want your certificate to say, congratulations, Training Analyst 312. No, you want to log out of our training environment. Log out of our training environment. You want to log into your company's environment with your credentials. Now, you might be using Okta or some type of single sign-on environment. Use that. Okay, however you get into your Sumo Logic environment, use that. So I'll demonstrate. Okay, so I'm logging in to my own environment, my company's environment. You're going to do the same thing. Okay, then once you log in, let me get rid of all these tabs. Again, you go to Certification tab. You go to Get Certified. Once you get to that Get Certified, you're going to see several choices here. You want to get certified. You're going to see several choices. We have different languages, different subjects, but you want that very first one. You just check it. It's fresh in your mind. You're going to click on the fundamentals. You're going to register for free. It takes instantaneous. Doesn't take it long at all. Okay. Then you're going to go through and you're going to start the exam. Okay. 30 questions, 60 minutes, the overview, then you'll click next. Then you'll go through and you'll start taking the questions, start the exam. So by default, your saved content will exist under the personal folder. Which of the following is not a valid action for your saved content? I never said anything about the word zip. Now, be aware that we have over 1,000 questions in our exam bank. So everybody may not get the same question, but if you get this one, you got this one right at least, okay? Now, true or false? Once an app is installed, it can be shared like other dashboards. We were able to share it, okay? The point here, I'm not gonna go through all of these. The point here is I want you to, once you go through everything, you'll click next and you'll submit. Of course I failed, but you'll submit. You can take this as many times as you like, but make sure you submit. That's the key, okay? All right, I'll stop sharing.
Modell, while you're there, if you go back for a second.
Yes, sure, Don wants me to go back, I'll go back.
For a second.
Sure.
Back to the exam.
I think I got out of that, John,
Okay,
but
the point
no,
is,
no,
if you
here it
scroll
is,
down,
here
there
it
it is. If you scroll down, you'll see what questions you got right, what questions you got wrong. So for those of you who are curious what you got right, what you got wrong, there you go. And if for some reason you don't pass, you're welcome to take it again immediately, or take a 10-minute break, or take it tomorrow, whatever works for you. Thanks.
Good point, John. That's a great point, because students often ask, hey, I didn't get a chance to see my questions. Well, once you get past this, you won't see them anymore. So that's a great point. Thank you, John. All right, so turning off the recording. Good luck.